let's talk a bit more about Narendra Modi and what he can potentially do, because this is clearly his victory, isn't it? I mean, no matter what the BJP and someone like an Advani may want us to believe, this is a victory, a landslide victory on the back of one man alone. Sadanand Dhume, how do you see Modi reacting to such a strong mandate? Because people believe that he's, the criticism of him is that he's authoritarian. This is the kind of mandate that he would have so wanted, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure, given the kind of things people said about him, that he would have wanted a 2/3 mandate. But there's been debate ahead of this, which is that how can a person who is used to ruling Gujarat with such a strong majority adapt to coalition politics? It looks like the reams and reams of newsprint we all spent discussing this question, and the hours and hours of our airtime that was spent on that may all be moot. It looks like he has a single-party government. India, for the first time ever, first time since 1984, will have a single-party government, and for the first time ever, will have a single-party right-of-center government. So it's difficult to exaggerate just how big a deal that is. It's a tectonic shift. He'll be very happy. My own view has always been that we've been a little bit too quick to judge him simply in terms of his Gujarat experience. When you look at successful politicians anywhere in the world, one of the qualities they have is that they're protean. They're able to adapt. Narendra Modi was a different figure when he was a BJP functionary. He was a different person when he was an RSS man. He was a different person when he became Chief Minister of Gujarat, but he adapted very rapidly. In 2001, there was no evidence to suggest that this person is going to be a very successful economic manager, a very successful Chief Minister of Gujarat. We didn't know that. He had no record. So my own sense was that he is a person who has shown this capacity to adapt. He has a certain natural feel for administration. He would have grown into this job, presumably, even if he had come in with 250 seats. But to come in with a simple majority is just a boon. So it's a very happy circumstance. It'll allow him to really display those skills.
Sadanand says he's a man who he suspects is adaptable. What else, Professor Debroy, can you tell us about Narendra Modi, the man, the leader that, is going to be in charge for the next 5 years?
Well, firstly, these numbers, and this sort of endorses what Sadanand said in a slightly different way earlier, that these numbers are also a vindication of him, because India has voted for him. So let me state the counterfactual. We have all the anti-incumbency, we know that for a fact. How many seats would you have given the BJP had Mr. Advani been the prime ministerial face? And if you're honest about it, you would say not more than 150. Now that leap from 150 to whatever it is going to be, 275, call it a wave, call it a ripple, call it a tsunami, doesn't matter, but that is Mr. Modi. And therefore India, across India, has voted for Mr. Modi. What it therefore does, it vindicates him not only vis-a-vis the allies, it also strengthens his position within the party. And this is therefore a little bit more than mere numbers. It enables him to have the kind of cabinet he has, and it enables him to get along and do what he wants to do. And going back to what I mentioned earlier, the initial thrust would be, 1, on fixing administration, 2, using IT, 3, decentralizing, and without that being a contradiction, 4, integrating India in terms of various kinds of connectivity.
Swami, the other upside or potential upside of such a strong mandate is that, the kind of institutional overreach that we saw, judicial overreach that we saw over the course of UPA 2 is unlikely to happen. A CAG chief will probably think twice before he comes out with a report. Like, is that good? Is that bad? What kind of an implication could all of this have?
I think I'd first of all say that while I would agree that some of the other institutions, they were so fed up of this corrupt, useless Congress that they were much, much more active. They will not cease to be active.
And that's a good thing, I imagine.
I would say, for instance, that the fact that they've just about got a majority, right? We got so used to the idea of coalition governments, we've forgotten that it isn't actually such a fantastic wave to win 275 seats in the Lok Sabha. He does not have a majority in the Rajya Sabha and will not have for a long time, maybe not at all in the 5-year term. Then the question arises, will Congress or regional parties cooperate in the Rajya Sabha in his legislation? And the answer is not if he behaves the way he has behaved in Gujarat. So he will have to show himself, as Sadanand said. He's a good manager is a person who has different styles for different jobs. The fact that he had one particular kind of style in Gujarat, that is not going to work if you're trying to deal with an opposition majority in the Rajya Sabha, right? So very clearly you have to be different. Secondly, if you're in a state government, it's possible to crack the whip and say, okay, by and large, I've got rid of the other rivals within the party. I will go straight to the district collectors, empower them, and rule firmly through them. You can't do that in New Delhi, right? You don't control the district collector. I mean, the key district rural officials, the people with whom the people of India normally interact, 90% of them have never seen a central government official. The only government they know is the state government. So, you have to work through the states. So the style that he has to be different from the style in Gujarat. Then the question is, can he adapt to this new style? And I would agree with Sadanand that the mark of a good manager is that in different circumstances you are able to adapt your strategy. I think Modi will prove himself up to the job. I would say, however, there will still be a lot of chief ministers who will resent this sudden strong man coming up, and they will say, well, who are you to come into my area? To win them over, I think Modi needs to do what Arun Shourie has suggested. Arun Shourie suggested that using Article 254 of the Constitution, the President can be advised that wherever there is any conflict between a central law and a state law, the state law will reign supreme. If you ask me to get the states on board by using that particular carrot, I think that would be very useful. And it would be a very different way of functioning from what they said, the autocratic Modi in Gujarat. No, he would be decentralizing. And he would be decentralizing in order to improve governance and to get over some terrible problems like the Central Land Acquisition Act. The moment you say the states can have their own acts, everything becomes easier.
I mean, I agree, and I just want to jump in and say that this is actually a really interesting paradox, because in one way you can interpret this vote for basically politics as being re-centralized. For the first time since 1984, you have a single-party government. But at the same time, state governments are much, much stronger than they were in the 70s and 1980s. So if you think of him as the captain of a ship, he's been captaining a ship in Gujarat. Now he has to captain a super tanker. It's a different set of skills. But the guy seems to be good at what he does, and I would certainly give him the benefit of the doubt at least for the first 6 months before setting in on judgment on whether or not he can captain this super tanker successfully.